All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for Run with the Wind, episode 13. All right.
We throwing hands.
We're at that point now where
the running has stopped.
The boy who we've been calling not Shinji, but also known as Kosuke, has been being a bit of a bitch here, a bit of a pain to our boys Haiji and Kakeru. And Kakeru's had it. He's about to go punch the kid.
Right.
And then we cut off the episode. So
who knows what's happening there?
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't go into the worst timeline that we talked about last episode.
Right, exactly.
Because that would be really bad.
That would be exceptionally bad.
Yeah.
Not only is this a situation where we're out in the middle of nowhere and stuff, but while they're out on this training camp, kind of little excursion, they should be focused on that, not all this kind of personal drama stuff.
It's, childish.
Yeah. So, y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion. All right, well, this was a cathartic episode, but it was also a very painful episode.
It was
like I felt just like sick inside during all the flashback stuff, and the fact that it wasn't all flashback, like it was the like
the
blending it while he's trying to just
present.
have a good time with his team and stuff, and
that was excellent.
He's
because
lost in this because of the near violence that he committed to Kosuke.
He has not escaped it. He is still running from it.
Yep.
You know, in that it's more of those things to make it so that it's not just about the growth of the characters alongside the sport, but it's the reason of why it needs to be this sport.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
And because I'm not like Caleb here. I have never been particularly obsessed with running. Like, so the whole idea of like, a running, anime, it's like, how do they do that? I'm sure the characters are going to be great and all, but like, how's that going to work? Yeah. This is how you have it work.
Yeah, Kakeru's the perfect main character to basically disassemble what makes a competitive running athlete specifically, like a lot of them, like a stereotypical one, and then put a very, very painful, emotional kind of moment in his life that kind of
shaped him.
Kind of embodied who he became in college, even though it's not a big jump in time.
Well, one of the things that I think makes this so insidious is that there's the awful coach, and Kakeru does the thing that, like even maybe violence wasn't the answer.
No, it definitely wasn't the answer. Right. Yeah,
but he did stand up for the kid, right? Not maybe in the times when it really mattered and stuff, but he tried, right? He didn't do a good job of it necessarily, but he did something, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot more than what the rest of the team did.
It's infinitely more because they did nothing.
Right, exactly.
This is the point that I think needs to be made here with what you're saying here, is that he was the only one that did anything.
Right.
Like, the only one.
Yes.
And what he did was not the optimal thing to do.
No. Yeah. But, the crazy thing, though, is that if you think about how Kakeru acted back then, and then you think about how Kakeru acted in the first half of this series, they don't seem they seem very different. Like, he still ended up taking in the teachings of that awful coach that he hated so much, even though he got so frustrated with him. He hated him so much that he ended up punching him in the face and going in for more after. Right?
Yeah.
That's that I feel like is a great way to showcase just how awful that coach was.
Well,
right?
How much it affected Kakeru.
Right. Yeah. It wasn't just something because I'm sure the way the coach sort of justifies it is I'm not really having much of a negative impact on these kids here. I'm just making sure that they can run because we will be strong and all that stuff. Right?
Yeah.
Whatever.
And I'll just tell you that what he did as a coach is not as extreme as you'd think. A part of the things that made him extreme, let's just be real here, if you're in a competitive high school going for like serious level like competitions and stuff like that, you're thinking about nationals and stuff like that, most of the things that makes him a bad coach has to do with the injury.
Yes.
Everything else, no, he's a dime a dozen. In fact, one of the main things that makes him such a perfect fit in this is that outside of what Kakeru did to the coach and how the coach responded, I would say a little bit to the injury, in that almost all coaches would, after a certain point, just go, no, you're done. And they wouldn't have any emotion about it. They'd be like, no, sorry, you're done.
Right.
You cannot run
I'm making
here.
a decision here.
And a lot of that is just based around the legal implications of them, pushing that on there and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's all sorts of reasons.
All sorts of things and stuff like that. But yeah.
The part that really got to me, though, wasn't even the stuff where he was like, okay, because there's a part where he's shouting at the student and he's like, this is it. You have nothing if you're not here. It's like, that's like, that's abuser talk. Like that's
totally.
That's the, you're trapped here, so you better, you better stick around, right? And make things happen. But the part that felt the slimiest was all the times when he wasn't interacting with the team.
When
and
he was
it
interacting with the other...
like the other people, and it's like, oh, yes, and he suddenly turns into this completely different person, taking all the credit for Kakeru, when he ended up even saying later, the other coaches will manage your training.
Right.
Like, it's like, what... like...
Yeah. Saying things like, oh, it's not my coaching, I just have talented runners, which I think is... it's
in
an
the case of Kakeru, for sure.
It's an oversimplification of things there. I think every student on some level needs a coach to kind of help them be propelled a little bit.
Totally.
But not everyone, is incumbent upon a coach being there in order for them to produce results, because they could just have talent.
And even...
In
some other cases, another thing that isn't being looked at here, because that line in a vacuum, totally fine. That's right. And he's basically being deferential to his students, right?
Yeah.
Problem is that he's actually doing that just to sort of pat himself on the back, sort of, all that. And he has never said that to any of his actual runners other than Kakeru.
Yeah, as far
he
as
doesn't
we've
even
seen,
believe it. In fact, he says a whole shit ton of things to the opposite.
Yep.
So it's...
I want to get into the idea of why Kakeru ended up taking on a lot of the things that his coach embodied, though. Because one of the things that I feel like is really easy to kind of look over here is the idea that what happened was something that led to him getting punished. Kakeru had, as far as we know, really, really extreme penchant, like a thing for running.
Yeah, so savant. Yeah,
he was a savant with regards to running. His form was fantastic.
Yep.
His body, everything, he was into it. That was a thing that was there from the get-go with regards to him in high school.
Yep.
But in his third year, he loses out on that opportunity because of what he did to the coach. Now, the coach basically instilled in them that running is all about results. The only thing that matters is results. Kakeru was rewarded all throughout high school because of his results.
Right.
When he goes and then punches the coach, specifically for this bit there, he was wanting to do that long before then.
Oh, yeah.
Right, right. So, over the course of all this time, he's been building up guilt, shame, and all these negative emotions that is twisting his own view of himself.
Right, because there's the whole thing of, I want to stand up for this kid, but I don't know if I can. He's not listening to me, whatever. My own results of doing so well are separating me from the team so that he's not even really, actually listening to what I'm saying. He's not,
Yep.
And then also, why haven't I actually stood up to the coach before now? I'm allowing this to happen, even though I know it's messed up.
Exactly.
And there you go.
And that has got to be tearing him up inside. The part that I feel like is really, really, just really gross here is that the reason why I think Kakeru is traumatized about this has nothing to do with him punching the guy. It has everything to do with the fact that he stayed in there for years, well, 2 years at the very least, and then a little bit into his
third year.
Third year, I think that's how they described it. It was like the beginning of his third year where this was
somewhere in there.
Yeah. And over the course of that time, he hated it so much he wanted to puke. And when he finally went and did something, he screwed it up.
Right. And then the whole team ended up
The
suffering
whole
for it.
team
All those 3
lost
years of hard work.
everything that they did in high school for that.
Yep.
And he, during high school, like, he cared about his team. There was this aspect of him that said, these guys, like, I at the very least, like, okay, I may be reaching a little bit here, but I get the vibe from Kakeru that the reason why he was so, like just revolted by what he did to the other players and stuff was that he's like, they're putting in effort. They're giving it their all.
Right.
This isn't what running is about. So over the course of time, he was worn down and eventually at some point in there began to subconsciously accept what the coach was doing so that this is my theory basically, this is kind of a little bit of a reach here, but so that he would feel okay with not stepping in. That's the only way that he would be able to justify in his own. Otherwise, he would get torn up inside.
Right. I feel like
not
it's
do anything about it.
I feel like that's a part of what it is, and that's certainly what it probably was for the other athletes that didn't do anything. But then I think one of the things that it could also be, and I'm curious what you think about this, is that as a result of all the negative implications or consequences of him punching the coach, right? Because in that moment, he felt like this was right, this was justified, all of that stuff. He ends up realizing later that, yes, it was a lot of sort of just venting himself, right?
Yeah, but, he did it for him.
Right. But because he did it imperfectly, he then basically throws the baby out with the bathwater that he shouldn't have done that in the first place. The coach was right, etc., something like that.
Right.
And then because I didn't do it the right way, right? I didn't stand up to him the right way, so apparently I must have just been wrong entirely, right?
Well, again, also, he didn't do it earlier.
Yes, that too.
Think about it. If he went through 2 years of wanting to puke throughout all of this.
Oh, yeah.
This was a thing where he wore himself down enough to be able to punch him, but he also was worn down enough by the coach that he was not doing anything.
Right. He wasn't willing to actually do the harder thing, which is to talk to the coach, stand up in a non-outburst way and confront him and say, "Come on, this isn't working. You know, the dude's injured. You know, you've been not like the fact that he's injured isn't his fault. If anything, it's the fact that when he said, "Hey, it's starting to hurt" and stuff, you told him to keep going. You know, like things like that. But that's harder. That's a lot harder, right?
It's way harder.
And as a result of that, he didn't. And then the thing that ended up pushing him to the point where he could was when he was also getting something out of it, like for himself, right? Of being able to vent. So then he does that. Doesn't go well.
And then he gets a year to sit and stew in the emotions of the whole thing alone.
Right.
Not with his team.
Yep. Well,
because
they're not his team anymore. Well, he ruined everything.
Well, right. But I want to go out on a limb and say that one of the things that I also want to infer a little bit here is that I'll bet you that he didn't intentionally seek out the team during that time. I'll bet you he was so ashamed about the whole thing that when the team might have needed him, just as friends, to be like, hey, because I'll bet some of them were proud of him. Some of them were like, hell yeah. They were like secretly cheering for him.
And then the consequences come in, and then it's like, well, shit.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But before then, they probably would have been like...
Yeah, exactly. And even though they got the consequences, I'll bet you still, there were still at least one or two of them. And I think Kosuke might be one of them. That's why he's the only character from that team that's still in the story, is that still somewhere down deep inside, Kosuke was like, yes! Like, that guy deserves that.
Right. I wish I had done that myself.
I wish I had done that myself.
Yeah.
But over the course of those years and the year after that, where were you?
Well, sure.
Like, where was this guy? I wish you would have been able to lead us. There's someone in there that could have made this so much better. You had his ear.
Yeah.
He valued you because of your results.
Right. And maybe you could have used that to help us, but you didn't. Everything that Kakeru has done as far as Kosuke is concerned has caused him pain.
Yes.
Whether it was before and he was excelling and, being separated from the team and things like that, and they were forced to do other things because compared to Kakeru, they looked awful, right?
Sure.
Or afterwards, when Kakeru does something and they all suffer for it.
Yeah.
Everything that they've done, all the years that they've suffered, and everything that were kind of as a result of, our main boy here.
Yeah.
Now, no, it really is all for nothing.
And even though he quit running, just in general, for a year, he still has this form. He still has this natural talent.
Yeah.
Then he gets the fated encounter with someone with the same type of injury who then sees his running and goes,
Do you like running?
Do you like running?
Yeah.
And it's like his whole nightmare comes back all over again as he's like, wait, no. So he's closed off. He's in his shell, like trying to protect himself from potentially not just hurting himself, which is what most people are primarily focused on is survival, but also
not hurting others. Because that hurts him too. Way more.
And now we're in this situation where they're like, oh, just open up. Like, we're not going anywhere. This is what it means to be a part of a team here.
That's why I love the scene at the dinner table so much, where he's hearing the static and the distorted voices and everything over them all smiling and just sharing a meal together.
Because he can't participate.
Well, he can't participate, but also if you look at what's happening, sharing a meal is like, yes, there's the whole joke and meme of the anime food montages and everything, but sharing a meal with people is, in my mind, one of the most wonderful things that people can do.
Sure.
Because it's okay, put everything aside, and we are going to sustain ourselves together, right? We are going to do things that allow us... Yeah, it's community,
Connection.
Right. Yeah. Ape together strong, right? Like all that good stuff. And he's in this wholesome environment, but he's not able to be a part of it. And the more wholesome the environment, that makes it worse that he's not able to be a part of it, right? Because if it was just like a regular meal or whatever, it's like it would still be awful that he was going back to that horrible memory,
right?
But the fact that no, this is the most accepting, warm place you could have ever hoped for, but because pain is scary, there's still this part of him that's like, I'm guessing, I can't fully trust this. I can't be here because bigger they are, the harder they fall, right? It's like I'm just
setting myself up for more pain.
Right. He doesn't see something wonderful. He just sees a long drop, right? And it's just an even farther way to fall.
And it's scary to trust them like that because in a ways, I'll bet you he felt really alone and that he probably looked around at his team in high school and was like, no one else is saying anything.
Right.
Or they've already kind of caved in because I think it was Kosuke that was saying, why doesn't he just do what we do? Just try hard when he's looking, and everybody else just kind of slack off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what does it mean to run? We're going to find that out together.
We are.
I loved that bit so much because the power that comes from a community when they address and seek out the person, especially from the leader, like Haiji here, saying like, oh, no, come sit down and share with us the things that have been eating you up inside. Just tell us. We'll accept it. And he does. And in some ways, they almost made light of it in a way that I think was relatively healthy. But for the most part, it could have gone a wrong way potentially. But I would say because he was able to share everything and no one interrupted him and he let out all he was willing to say with regards to that, it was really powerful. And then he's able to then go, okay, I actually am willing to put everything I am into this, which is a beautiful way to say it because what he said was, he's like, I'm going to take this seriously now. And one of the things that when you're afraid or when you're guarded or something like that is you only put like a percentage of yourself into it. It's kind of like the idea of a poker table where you're like, I'm not all in.
Right.
I'm going to bet 30%. Because I can afford to lose 30%.
Yeah.
But if I bet all in, then I'm all in. And if I just fail this hand, then it's over. But it's that thing of when everyone reveals at the poker table, like, this is just for fun. No one here is going to take all your chips, man.
Nothing risked, nothing gained. Like, just go for it. It'll
just
be
go
fun.
for it. Yeah, it'll be a great time.
Yeah.
And I cannot wait for them to go into the aspect of what it means to run because them doing this together, most athletic style stories like that kind of skip aside a lot of the awkward tension that comes from people with different skill levels competing, not together as much, but more of like against a thing out there.
Okay.
So it's this thing of where the thing has these thresholds that you need to meet. And when someone's not meeting them, like Prince was, that awkward stuff can come up. And I'm so glad this show actually went into that, because there's some really nuanced, awkward conversations that just naturally come about with regards to that. So I'm really happy that we're here.
Yeah, that shot of him looking up and just seeing all the boys,
all 9 of them,
all 9 of them just standing there and just just looking at him
in the
wind, seeing him for who he is and completely accepting him.
Yeah,
like that's. I'm so glad that the show didn't explain like what was going on there inside of Kakeru, right? It was just no, you don't need it. You don't need it. Just like the wind, you might not be able to necessarily like see it, but you know it's there. You know what's going on, right?
Yep.
So, and here we go.
Here we go. Yeah. I'm so proud of Haiji as well for when he comes up to him on the balcony, and he is not saying anything.
That was
like, here's some more milk.
That was wonderful. Yeah.
And he waits, and he waits, and he waits, and it's like 7 seconds of silence.
Right.
And then he's like, "How much did you know?" And
because there's a conversation going on even without words, right? Yep. Kakeru knows what Haiji's doing. He knows Haiji's perceptive and that he's got an empathetic heart and everything. So he knows why he's coming out here. So he's wondering like, okay, are you gonna are you gonna push? Right?
Right. How much do you know? How much have you sunk past my armor?
Right.
How exposed am I to you? Do I need to protect myself from anything regarding you? No.
And it's
Haiji's gonna take care of you.
Haiji would have been absolutely okay if that conversation just turned into them both sitting out there with their mugs of warm milk watching the stars. That would have been totally fine. Yep. So.
Yeah. I could have seen this being a small arc. Like I'm also just impressed that they did it in one episode.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of the wonderful things that you can do with the main character in a bigger cast like this, where you can have that arc. You just don't necessarily. You just sort of pause it and then pause. Just little bits here and there, and then we can have nice capitulations like this. And his journey isn't over.
No.
Right? This is the beginning. This
is the next chapter.
Right. He's bared himself to them, and now it can keep going. Yeah. Now those fears, now that they've been brought out into the open, they can actually start being addressed, because they'll run. And you know what? Those problems that you thought would crop up, they won't. So.
So, y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access. You can chat with us in the community there about this show, about anime in general, and also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
Yes, we stream every weekday. The info's in the description.
Yes, if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all
next time.